Hello, I'm Jessie the Sleepy Koala, and welcome to my bookshelf tour. In my last video, I went through and I organized my shelves and put all of my books that had been on the floor of my hallway back onto my shelves, and it's so nice to have all the books back up there, let's just say. But now that I've finally put things up, it means that I can finally do a bookshelf tour. I've never been able to do one of these because before the books were just kind of shoved on randomly. They weren't even put on nicely. Things were like layered on top of each other and put in like upside down and backwards. So I couldn't do a bookshelf tour before because my shelves were not tidy in any way, and they were also in the giant cavern that is my upstairs hallway. Now we are in my new library room, which will also be my recording studio, and I am very excited to finally have gotten to the point of being able to set up the bookshelves in this room. There's still a lot that I have to do before I can say that this room is done, but we're getting there, and we've got a big chunk of what needed to be done. So now I can do a bookshelf tour, and I am very, very excited about this. In terms of my shelves, they aren't organized. There is not an organizational strategy that has been put to work here. Things are where I decided was best for them, and that was how I decided to put the books up. The way that I organize my shelves is I figure out where the prominent shelves are and which books I want on those shelves. Because one of these bookshelves were missing a shelf, means this one here just has the two shelves, so these are my feature shelves now. So my first step is figuring out what special things I want to put in the prime viewing spot. After that, I put the rest of the series up everywhere, then just fill in all the gaps with any single standalones or duologies I have. I actually went through and I organized all of my standalones and duologies by size so that I could at least try and group sizes together, even if there wasn't much else that I was doing. Like these aren't categorized by genre or anything. They are just anywhere. The one thing that does bug me is when authors are split up. So authors are always going to be together on my shelves, with the exception of the Sanderson books up here, because I have a bunch of excess Sanderson books that are separate to the ones that I normally sit in front of, which are still in my office. These are the extra ones. I found a full set of the Stormlight Archive and a full set of Mistborn, and those are going on my feature shelf. But all of the other extras are gonna go down the bottom. So that is the one exception to splitting up an author. Everything by the same author will be together. With that explanation out of the way, let's jump right into it, shall we? Starting with the top shelf from left to right, we have got the Eragon series. I think there might be a book missing here. These are actually my husband's books. We brought a lot of childhood books back from his mother's house over Christmas, and these were some of the ones we brought back. I haven't actually read the Eragon series, but my brain is still telling me that there might be one missing from here. Also, Eragon is a smaller paperback, whereas the other ones are bigger hardbacks, and this bugs the hell out of me. I do really like the hardbacks of these. They look really pretty, particularly Eldest. Like that limited edition looks really, really nice. After that, we've got the Power of Five series by Anthony Horowitz. This is a great series that I loved as a teenager. I still think it's really good. But like with the Eragon books, it bugs the hell out of me that Oblivion is so much bigger than the other ones and a completely different style. They changed it for the last book, and this bugs me. I don't like when things don't match. To go through the next ones relatively quickly, we have 1984 by George Orwell, The Psychopath Test by John Ronson, The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald, Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, 19 Minutes by Jodie Picoulty, A Box Full of Clow Cards from the Card Captors series, and then we are into the Dan Wells section, where there are several books of I Don't Want to Kill You. There is also I'm a Serial Killer and Mr. Monster. We've also got The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. And then finishing off this shelf, we have got the Tomorrow When the War Began series by John Marsden. The next shelf is the Wheel of Time shelf. Here are all of the Wheel of Time books, plus a copy of Dune just tucked in at the end there to take up the last little space. I would really like to read The Wheel of Time. I watched the TV show, and the one thing I wanted the TV show to do is convince me to read the books. And for all of my thoughts on the TV show, which I thought was good. I quite liked it. I did a live stream with the 17th Shard, and I talk a lot about my thoughts and feelings on the show on that live stream, so check it out. I will link it below. But I did really like the show. There were some issues I found with it, but it achieved the goal that I wanted, where I wanted the show to make me want to read the books. And it did that. I now want to read the Wheel of Time books. I just have to, find time to read all of these. I don't know when that's gonna be. There's so many other things to read as well. When do I have time to just read a 13-book giant mega series? But I will find time eventually. Dune is actually the complete opposite of the Wheel of Time. I watched the movie and left not wanting to read the book anymore. I wasn't particularly invested in reading the book beforehand, but I just really didn't want to read the book after watching the movie. I really dislike the way the mother character is portrayed in Dune. I think she is done dirty, and I kind of suspect that that comes from the source material because of the time period in which it was written. But I really don't like how they characterized her and the purpose of her character in the story. I honestly can't remember my full rant on this, but I remember ranting to my husband quite a bit after leaving the cinema. And because of this, I don't want to read the book anymore. On the next shelf, we are starting with the Isaac Asimov Foundation books. These are my husband's books, and I do think I want to read Foundation eventually. It's one that I'd be wary about because people say that it's really about the themes more than a plot or character, and I think I might struggle with that. So it's something that I have been putting off, but I do think I want to try Foundation at some point as well. After that, we've got the Song of Ice and Fire series. I will read this eventually if there is a last book, because I don't really want to read it and get really invested in these books and then have to wait, because I know that that sucks, and I know that there is a giant question mark of how long it's going to take until the next Game of Thrones book comes out. So I don't really want to become a fan until there's more of a guarantee that there will be an ending to the story. I've written a fan fiction that gets abandoned. I don't need a published book series to be abandoned as well. After that, we have got the Tolkien books. We have got The Hobbit, and we have got the Lord of the Rings series. Following that, we've got the Green Duology, I think, by Jay Lake. I think there's just the 2 books in the series. Also, I keep thinking that Green is upside down because the girl's head is at the top and it's upside down, and the other one, she's at the bottom, but no, that's just the printing, and this is driving me crazy. Okay. Next up, we're going to start with Leigh Bardugo, and we've got the Shadow and Bone trilogy, followed by the Six of Crows duology, a little book that's a in-depth breakdown of Six of Crows, which somebody sent me for Secret Caesar this year. I thought this was a great gift. Thank you so much. We've then got Name of the Wind, which I've just realized is out of order. There we go. That's all fixed. There are 2 Wise Man's Fear. I don't know why there's duplicate of that. But this is another series that I don't want to read until the 3rd book is out, just because I don't want to become a fan and then just be stuck waiting for whoever knows how long. So I'm fine just skipping this. There's enough other things that I could be reading instead. Next, we've got the Dragon Keeper series. I only have the first 2 books, Dragon Keeper and Garden of the Purple Dragon. I love this series so much. This is a childhood favorite of mine, and I was absolutely gunning to read it as a kid, and I still think I am now. I really like to do a reread. Next, we've got Wildwood Dancing and its sequel, Cybele's Secret. Wildwood Dancing was a great book. I was blown away with Wildwood Dancing. This is another high schooler teenage Jess favorite book. Cybele's Secret was not as good at all. I really struggle with that book. Next, we've got Servant of a Dark God by John Brown, followed by A Tale of Magic by Chris Colfer, and then we're into the Stephen Erickson section. We own 3 books of Stephen Erickson. I have no idea if these are in a series or if they're in order. They're not my books, they're my husband's books. So I just kind of put them together in a way that worked. And lastly on the shelf, we have got the Green Brothers. I've got a couple of things by John Green, Abundance of Catherines, Looking for Alaska, The Fault in Our Stars, and Turtles All the Way Down. And I also have the second book of Hank Green's books, A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. I do really like An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I listened to it on audiobook last year, and I really wanted to read the sequel, so my husband lovingly got it for me for Christmas. So now I just need to get the first book so I have a matching set. On the next shelf, we have got His Dark Materials, followed by The Magician's Guild by Trudy Canavan, The Girl in Times Square by Paulina Simons. I love that book. That book was really good and really, really sad. Crystal Moss by Catherine Roberts. This is another book that I read in high school. This is really good. Though this is apparently like the second book in the series, and I never quite realized that, but I really liked it, and I wouldn't mind reading the other ones. This copy of Crystal Moss is falling apart. Yep, so pages are literally falling out of this. It's an old copy. Next is The Grinders Bookshop in the World by Amelia Mallour. I talked about this recently in my January wrap-up. It is a gorgeous book. I absolutely love it. Another childhood favorite, Katangata Twitch, which is a fantasy set in New Zealand near a volcano, and that's all I remember about it. I don't remember anything else. I think I found it a little bit scary, but I was also like 11, I think, when I read it. So I imagine adult Jess wouldn't find that very scary. Rivers of London is one that I've wanted to read for absolutely ages. I just haven't gotten to it. A friend of mine really likes it, and I saw it after she was telling me about it in a secondhand store. So I bought it, and this was like a year ago, or almost a year ago, and I still haven't read it. So I really need to get on that. Waters for Elephants was a lovely, gorgeous book. I love that one. Then we have Inkheart by Funk, followed by our first face-out book, The Puppy War by R.F. Kuang. I haven't read this yet. It's going to be read sometime very, very soon because I really want to know what's in this book. People talk about it so much and say it's so good, so I really, really want to read it sometime soon. Also, I just really like the cover, which is strange because the cover is orange and I don't like the color orange very much. Next up, we've got the first Murderbot book, All Systems Red, followed by Red Queen, The Conductors, Sabriel, Throne of Crescent Moon, The Rune Lords, Hyperion, A Shadow of Summer. Wow, that was really hard to read. This is not the best font for that book. The Lies of Locomora, A Man Called Ove, and such a cute children's book, Monsters Don't Wear Underpants by Isaac Stewart. Look at how cute this is. It's got little Blue in it. Isaac's little mascot that he draws. It's so cute. Lastly, we've got one of the Sandersons shelves, which I've sort of organized in terms of series, but I also wanted to keep light together. But if there was a certain printing that I owned all three of and I had them here, I kept those together. Hence why we've got some of Mistborn, and then we've got a whole set of Mistborn, and then we've got some more of Mistborn, and then we go into Era 2 and the other ones. But then all of the hardcovers, they just easily stack, so I just put all those together. We've also got Mistborn the Adventure Game on here with the dust jacket removed, a copy of The Arithmetist, and also the omnibus of Stephen Leeds. Onto the second shelf, starting at the bottom, so I can continue on with the Sandersons. We've got The Way of Kings, several editions. We've got these stupid Oathbringers that had black spines. For anyone who doesn't know, the UK editions of the Sanderson books, all of the Cosby ones, they are white. They have embraced the minimalistic white background with some detail on it. And that includes all the spines. So it means that you can line them all up on your shelf and you have this beautiful white trail of books. And then, for some reason, the publisher for the third book decided to print the book with black spines. Why? Why did Gulliance do this? It was so dumb. I have no clue who thought this was a good idea, and apparently Gulliance figured out that this was a dumb idea because they then reprinted them with the white spines, so thank God for that. They have these copies of Oathbringer that just have black spines that just don't match anything, that just sit with the other extra Sanderson book. Then we've got a box set of The Way of Kings, or at least the first 3 books. Is anybody else really, really triggered by the fact that the first book, The Way of Kings, the entire spine is just different? It's just different to the other 2. This is a box set. that is meant to go together, why does it look so different? I don't understand. It just doesn't look good when it's so different, and it's meant to be a box set. Following this, we've got Legion of Fire by Peter David and The Moat in God's Eyes by Larry Niven and Jerry Portinell. And that is the bottom shelf of the second bookcase. Next, we move on to the Dresden shelf. I really like the look of all the hardcovers stacked up like that. It also made it much easier to fit everything onto the shelf. As well as the Dresden books, we've got the first Coder Alexa book by Jim Butcher and also the 5th Season trilogy, which was such a good read, and I highly recommend it to anyone who likes fantasy. It's so good. The first book does something and it's so subtle and it's just so well done. Jemison does an incredible job. She also does insanely well with characters. She is such a good character writer and makes them so three-dimensional and full of depth. It's amazing. Next up, we have got the American editions of Harry Potter, which I had not seen before. These are more of the books that my husband and I picked up from his mum's house over Christmas. And by God, I think they're beautiful. They just look so nice lined up. I just have to get the hardcover of the first one because there was only the soft cover version. But God, these are just so pretty next to each other. I really, really like the look of them. After Harry Potter, we have got The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, another fantasy book that I really, really want to read, as well as Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, another one that I'm dying to read. God, there's so many books that I just really want to read next, but I can only really choose one to read next, maybe two. I'm not sure how well I do with reading multiple books at the same time. I'm trying it out. I'm seeing how it goes. After that, we've got The Republic of Pirates, which is a book that I found at a secondhand store, and it sounded really interesting, so I decided to buy it because it was cheap. Then a lot of the rest of the shelf are things that I've bought relatively recently to read. We've got Edmund Spring, we've got the Necronomicon, the H.P. Lovecraft tales, Black sci-fi short stories, so sci-fi short stories written by Black authors. Live Free or Die and Ender's Game are two of my husband's books. Then we've got A Darker Shade of Magic, which is one I really want to read. City of Ghosts is one that my husband owned that I didn't realize we had another V. Schwab book. Three Parts Dead I got for Christmas. The Bone Witch and The Calculating Stars I bought recently to read relatively soon. As you can see, my TBR list is all over the shop as well on this. Now we are on to the first of my two feature shelves. This one is my Cassandra Clare shelf. I have got a lot of Cassandra Clare books, guys. They actually extend onto a second shelf because I couldn't fit them all onto this one. Plus, I wanted to show off some of the art because I really like the Chain of Gold art, and this edition in particular is really shiny, so I really like that as well. We've also got my figurines of Will, Jem, and Tessa, as well as Church at Jem's Feet, which I got with some special editions for the Infernal Devices, I think from Illumicrate. But this is the first part of my Cassandra Clare shelf. Left to right, we've got the 6 books in the base Mortal Instruments series, followed by Chain of Gold face out. Stacked on top of each other, we have got the Infernal Devices series at the bottom and the Dark Artifices series at the top. On the right-hand side, we've got 2 of the short story collections, Ghosts of the Shadow Market and Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. On my second feature shelf at the top, we've got the Mistborn trilogy. I really like the Goliath editions of Mistborn. They look so good. Next, we've got the Caraval series. It's missing the second book at the moment because I am currently reading it. But these editions are so pretty and they remind me so much of carnivals and circuses, and I love it. After that, we have got the 4 books in the Stormlight Archive series, followed by my current favorite series, the Mirror Visitor series. But it is missing 1 book and I am replacing a second one. I don't currently have the first book of Winter's Promise. I've got it on back order at the moment, and I do have a hardcover version of The Missing of Claire de Lune, but I'm currently reading it at the moment and I will need to get rid of this paperback version that I have. Lastly, we have got some fairy tale retellings by Liz Braswell. Towards the end of last year, I was in a very fairy tales retelling mood. I did a video with my friend Grace, who's very into fairy tale retellings and knows quite a bit about them. I'll link that. Come check it out. It's lots of fun. Grace has a lot of knowledge. And it was around that time that I bought both of these books because I keep eyeing them up at Target and finally caved and bought them. Onto the final bookshelf. This is my manga shelf. My manga shelf is not very big, so there's a lot of other stuff on it as well. But the manga that I do have is, I've got the first 4 editions of the Card Captors special editions. I need to get on to getting the other ones of those. I also have a hodgepodge of Tsubasa Chronicle omnibuses. Again, I need to get the ones that I am missing and I just haven't done so yet. After that, we've got a random selection of a bunch of books. We've got Monster Blood Tattoo by D.M. Cornish, Target by Darcy Cole, Madman's Dreams of Turing Machines by Jana Levin. I haven't read that in a long time, but I remember it being very good. There's Founders by Stuart Jaffe, who I actually met at JordanCon this year. It's who I bought this book from, and this book sounded very interesting. I was also very late in going to buy books, so they had already packed up most of the other ones, and this was the only one that I remembered the placement of, so I got this book. Next is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. Becoming Legends, this is the 2021 JordanCon anthology, which my friend Rosemary is actually published in, and I am so proud of her, and her story is so good, and I really, really like it, and I'm looking forward to reading her future works. Then we have The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, The Collector by John Fowles. I own this book because I saw it in a secondhand bookshop and I knew it from Criminal Minds. My interest was piqued because of the show, hence I bought the book, and I really didn't like the book at all. I do think I finished it, but it's the type of thing that if I tried to read it now, I would just DNF this book. I just don't like the direction of the story. Then we have Songs in the Deep, and then we've got my Twilight collection, which is actually missing Twilight because over Christmas time, my husband and I found the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th book in a secondhand store for cheap. So we bought them because it's really easy to find Twilight books. So finding the first one is not going to be hard. And then Life and Death I have had for a little bit longer. I reread Twilight last year, and you know what? I enjoyed it. I had fun. It was exactly what I expected, and I enjoyed having a vampire romance novel. That's what I was expecting, and that's what I got, and I was happy with that. I do want to read the other ones, and I do remember, because I listened to Twilight on audiobook, I got about halfway through and thought I really wish I just had the book, because I would have just preferred to read it. So seeing as we found the other ones for cheap, we bought them, and now I just need to buy Twilight and whatever the pomegranate one is that I don't remember the name of. Welcome to the Harry Potter shelf number 2. These are my childhood copies of Harry Potter, because my husband has the American hardback and I have the international softcovers, except for the last 2 because they only came out in hardback, which did really bother me quite a bit because I had soft covers for the rest of them. I also have The Cursed Child. I have never read The Cursed Child and I never intend to, so I don't actually know if I even want to keep that book. Maybe I'll give it away at some point. Then we have such a pretty book, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. I did like this book, but I did have issues with the ending, but I cannot get over how pretty that cover is and just how much I like the name of the book as well. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars is such a gorgeous title and I really, really like it. Next, we've got the Three Dark Crowns series, which is completely out of order and now I have to fix it. Okay, now it is all fixed. Next, we have the Three Dark Crowns series, a series of books that I am conflicted of whether I like it or dislike it because some of the books were great and some of them weren't, but I think we can all agree that these are terribly named books because they all contain numbers that don't match up to which number they are in the series. This is in order. The first book has a 3, the second book has a 1, the third one has a 2, and then the fourth one has a 5. And they all kind of make sense in world, but still, I think these are incredibly confusing names and maybe the book should be entitled something else. There is also the side companion book, Queens of Fenburn, which is prequels, I think. Finishing off this shelf, we've also got Serpent and Dove, The Night Circus, Kingdom of the Wicked, and Dry. All books that I really want to read sometime soon, adding those to my TBR as well. Next, we have my second Cassandra Clare shelf. This is following on from the other shelf. We've got the Last Hours trilogy. The third book will be coming out this year, and I'm very excited for it because I really liked the first two books. We've also got these two really gorgeous slipcovers that I got. One of them's for Chain of Gold, the other one's for Chain of Iron, and I absolutely adore them, so I wanted to show them off. These are the front covers with runes on them. On the sides, we've got details from the book, with Chain of Gold having Cortana, Cordelia's sword, and the Chain of Iron slipcover having the locket. And then on the back, we have got quotes from each of the books, which I thought was a really nice touch. Next to the slipcovers, there is my Shadowhunter Codex bookend thing that I also got with the Illumicrate special editions. It's currently holding all my bookmarks. I don't really know what these are meant to be for. Let me know in the comments if you have any of these and if you use them. They're kind of like, they almost remind me of pot plants, except there's no holes in the bottom, so you can't really put a real plant in them. But let me know what you use yours for and what ones you have. Then we've got the Eldest Curses series with the first two books, the first edition of the Mortal Instruments graphic novel, the Bane Chronicles, another side book, and another copy of the Red Scrolls of Magic, because there was a cover change and also a size change. So now I need to try and find the second book in this smaller size, so I have a matching set. Because even though the size of the bigger ones I have are the same, the actual art is not the same. And they never seem to have put the second one out with this art in paperback. It's apparently on the hardcover on the flip side of the dust jacket, but what I would like is another paperback, please, that matches my first one. And finally, we are moving on to my Ranger's Apprentice shelf. There are a lot of Ranger's Apprentice books, plus there is the Brother Band side series as well. I am behind on the most recent Ranger's Apprentice book. I have to read The Red Fox Clan and Duel at Arelyn, and I think there is actually at least one more out that I don't even own. I just haven't been in the mood for them, so I haven't caught up on those yet. Finally, on the side, we have Soulless, Wicked, and Stranger in a Strange Land. The rest of the bookcase is just non-fiction, textbooky type stuff, so I'm not gonna show that on camera because it's not overly interesting. So let's call it a day there. Well, that is it. That is everything. That is my bookshelf. I hope you have enjoyed. I definitely have enjoyed making this bookshelf tour. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, which is always good. Let me know in the comments how you organize your bookshelves. Do you go A to Z? Do you do it by author? Do you do it by genre? Thank you for watching, everybody. I have had a blast and I hope you have too. Like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell and I will see you all next time. Bye!